Now, in a society where thin is out and big is in, some experts say being overweight doesn't cancel out how fit you are.
Researchers say a quarter of obese middle-aged women and 10% of obese men in Britain fall into the fit but fat category, meaning they don't have any weight-related conditions.
Body-positive influencers have long spread the message that being larger doesn't always mean you are unhealthy.
Well, joining us in the studio is actor and body-positive influencer George Keywood. He believes BMI doesn't matter, and doctors say he's in good shape. Meanwhile, health and lifestyle expert Stephen Miller, who joins us from Stratford-upon-Avon, says you can be fat and fit, but you can't be fat and healthy. So let's start with you, Steve. So just in terms of BMI, I've always thought it's not a brilliant measure in itself. Should we rely on BMI as a measurement of how healthy we are?
I think actually we should stop complicating it, because when we start talking about BMIs and all of the academia around weight loss and how fat we are, people become very confused. I think the nation is very confused. I think we should keep it much more simple than that. If you look down and your stomach is jolted out and you can't see your feet, you are too fat. It's as simple as that. Now, coming on to the part where can you be fat and fit, the answer to that is yes. I mean, you only have to think of sumo wrestlers. I mean, they are very, very fit. I certainly wouldn't want to argue with one of them. And I also know people that are bigger people that do marathons. So, yes, I think you can absolutely be fat and fit, but can you be fat and healthy? Absolutely not. If you're too fat, you are potentially putting yourself on death row.
Well, let's get George. You're laughing at that. Do you consider yourself to be fit? Do you consider yourself to be healthy?
I would say for a plus-size man, I'm very fit and healthy. And I've had checks recently, blood tests, all sorts of checks to check those things, and everything comes back on point. So for him to say that, I mean, I feel like it's just an attack. You know, I mean, me being a plus-size man shouldn't be an issue. As long as I'm healthy and I pay private healthcare so I don't affect anyone,
Sure.
You know. That should be what's important here. That I'm not costing anyone anything other than myself, and I'm changing that for myself to make myself better.
Of course, and you mentioned you have private healthcare. A lot of people who are larger do not have private healthcare, and they use the NHS. Now, obviously, as a medic, I will stick by the medical opinion, which is that we want to encourage people to be lighter because you have far fewer complications going forward in terms of ischemic heart disease, for example, shortness of breath, varicose veins, etc., etc. It was really interesting you used the term plus size there.
Well, the reason why I say plus size is because, you know, Steve over there is saying fat. I mean, I think that's quite degrading. I think that's quite unnecessary. The same when you look at the BMI index. I mean, you're looking at something that was made in the 1830s or something, you know, and in that it says obese. I don't think obese is necessary. I think it's very outdated. I think we should just say plus size or overweight, because that's what it is. You know, I don't think it needs to be drawn out into this whole sort of attacking, you know, because I feel like saying fat and obese is quite abusive in my eyes.
And Steve, just in terms of that, I think that's a really good point. It's quite pejorative, isn't it, to say you're fat? And all that does is reinforce your behaviour. So you have low self-esteem, therefore you may well eat more, feel really bad about yourself. Should we stop attacking people who are bigger and try and encourage them?
It's not about attacking people. And the thing to remember is the word fat won't hurt you. But
it does hurt you. But it does hurt you, doesn't it?
It hurts people's mental health. That's the issue. And that is a contribution to why people are plus size and do gain weight.
No, you're absolutely wrong on that.
No, not at all.
It's all about how
I'm living proof.
It's all about what's said. It's all about how it's delivered. The word fat will not hurt you. Being fat will. And I actually think George is too gorgeous to be fat. Does that make it sound a bit better? I actually think he's a lovely chap. But I do worry about him because the evidence is clear. In fact, one of the biggest studies showed that if you're obese, I know you don't like that word, George, but if you're obese, you're 96% more likely to have heart failure. And listen, mate, I don't want you snuffing it too early. That's the thing.
Does it matter, Steve, where you carry the weight as well? Because the research suggests that if you're carrying the weight around your middle, then you're going to put greater pressure on your organs.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. The weight around the middle is, we all know it's dangerous fat. The key thing here, though, as well, is in the UK, we've gone down this normalisation route where we've started to kind of say, you know, let's all go on the. It used to be the catwalk, now it's the fat walk, and it's all cool to be fat. You know, if you're happy and you're fat, clap your hands. Now that sort of culture isn't good. Now, and it's not about being horrible to people. It's not about being cruel. We have to be kind.
I mean, you kind of just said it there yourself, though. You called it the fat walk. I mean, you kind of go against exactly what you're saying to some degree, because you're saying fat walk. That's quite a horrible thing to say. I mean, I'm just saying to people, be happy in yourself.
And
be
George,
positive. You know.
You do this on social media.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
You are body positive on social media. Do you always feel positive? If you walk into a gym, for example, do you feel confident enough? Because we know that gyms can be intimidating places. And a lot of people say, well, you know, if I'm bigger, I don't feel like I fit in there. I want to do something about it, but it's difficult.
It is difficult. I mean, look, you're always going to be thinking. You can never stop your mind from thinking. For me, I don't really care what anyone thinks or says to me, because that's just me as a person. That's
but you're
who
strong.
I'm a strong-minded person, very strong. But I think for a lot of people it can be really difficult, you know, feeling uncomfortable in your body because of the labels that have been given to you, and then going into an environment full of people that are in good shape and working out. You know, it's kind of like, it's not a nice place to be.
Doesn't mean they're healthy either, does it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, they could be smoking, drinking, doing all sorts of crazy stuff, you know, and they could be in worse shape than anyone else there.
And you have been taking real efforts, George, you were saying to us when we were talking before, to actually try and lose some weight, and you have been losing weight.
Yeah, I've lost I'm just over 4 stone in the past 4.5 months, and that's done by calorie defect and just strong mind control, basically. Me just saying to myself, I don't need that.
But even though you're positive about your own image, you still want to lose weight. That's the most interesting thing.
I think ultimately, you know, I know that long term it's not sustainable. You can't be this size forever. You don't see old people of this size in existence. So I'm not stupid, but at the same time, I don't think there's any need to put people down on their journey to try and improve themselves. I think that was the point
Steve was making, wasn't it? That he wants you to be around for longer.
Exactly. Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Steve Miller and George Keywood. Gorgeous George. Has it been named by Steve? You can have that one.
I'll have that one.
Thank you.